الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. All praises due to Allah, and may peace and blessings be upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ahmed, can you just please date the class and start the class?
Tonight is the 16th of Jumaadaa Al-Aakhirah 1444, and that is the 8th of January 2023, and we have reached Hadith number 14.
Class number, please.
This is now the class number 7.
Class number 7.
الحديث الرابع عشر عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يحل دم امرئ مسلم إلا بإحدى ثلاث: الثيب الزاني والنفس بالنفس والتارك لدينه المفارق للجماعة. رواه البخاري ومسلم. On the authority of Ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, it is not permissible to spill the blood of a Muslim except in 3 instances: the married person who commits adultery, a life for a life, and the one who forsakes his religion and separates from the community. Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
Jazakallah. طيب. This is a great hadith, and its hadith tells us that the blood of the Muslim is lawful, meaning sacred, and it's not allowed for you to shed the blood or kill a person except for those 3 things. Just a bit, because still tweeting here. Can we use the headphone? Can we use the headphone? Let me just see. This is clear, but it's just a bit hissing. That's it. There's a feedback on this microphone. Okay. Well, you don't have offer on. Bismillah. Bismillah. No, I don't like that. Wow. Oh, that's great. Think that for somebody. Wow. Let's put me the thingy. This is for your son, you put it. That's why. Can you just put just a bit down? Right. The blood of the Muslim is sacred, and we're not allowed to shed the blood of the Muslim except for those 3 things that he mentioned in the hadith. First one, I'm going to explain, by the way, thoroughly in terms of each hadith and in terms of each word. So this hadith is going to take me a bit of time. Thayyib az-zani, the person who was married before a correct, a right marriage, an authentic, which is a marriage which is not a marriage that is invalidated. So it is a valid marriage. He is married, whether he is married at the time of fornication or whether he was married before and he was divorced, he had a marriage in his life. So this is a person who had a marriage. So he had the honey and he had enjoyed it in the rightful manner, in the valid manner. This is called a thayyib. So if he had, after he had been given this blessing of Allah, makes the adultery, then he deserves the death. And this ihsan, we call it, it encompasses male and female, man and a woman. So the man and the woman, they have the same rule regarding this. And the penalty is death. And by the way, we are talking about an Islamic state. We're not talking about in a country which they don't implement Islamic state. So many even Muslim countries, they don't implement this law. So I don't want anybody to have a quotation from here and Abu Suhaib is calling for, for this death penalty in a country which they don't really implement anything from the Islam. So that has to be the case from the beginning. So in Islam, a Muslim state, the Khalifa, like now the moment in Saudi Arabia, I don't know how long, for how long it's going to stay like this, Allahu Alam, which is death penalty. And the death penalty is stoning to death. Like the Prophet of Allah, he had stoned somebody called Al-Ghamidiyya, Imra'a min Juhayn, a woman, and also Ma'iz ibn Malik. Radiallahu anhu wa ardah. We say, may Allah be pleased with him, yet he was stoned to death. He had committed the adultery. And we're going to talk about how the death takes place later on. Now, the wisdom from this rajm, the wisdom from why he's to deserve this horrible, unimaginable death, which is pelting by stones until he dies, is that because when he had the enjoyment through the adultery, he had it through all his body. All his body enjoyed that. And that is why all his body has to experience the punishment for his crime. Now, thayyib means the non-virgin. The non-virgin, so the opposite. So a thayyib is the non-virgin, because the virgin, even if he fornicates, whether the first and then the second time, he will not be a virgin according to what we say, but he's a virgin Islamically. He did not go into a marriage which is valid. So he committed the second or the third fornication, is not considered to be muhsan, that he had a marriage before, because we said he has to have a correct marriage, a valid marriage. So if a person entered a non-valid marriage, like mut'ah, Shia marriage, that is not a valid marriage. So if he had such a marriage like this, and he had left Shi'ism or Rafidism, we don't say that he had been married before. So if he committed the fornication, it will be different punishment, which is he will be exiled for 1 year, and also he'll be lashed 100 lashes, but he will not be stoned to death. The second one, ad-nafsu bin-nafs. A person killed another person unrightfully, without due right. And this person has the family of the person who's been killed has the option to ask for retaliation. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum al-qisas. O you who believe, the qisas being ordained upon you. Fil qatla, regarding the one who's being killed. Al-hurru bil-hurr, al-abdu bil-abd, wal-untha bil-untha. Slave by slave, free by free, female by female. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And this is a phrase which is eloquently speaking, the most eloquent. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ. You have a life regarding this retaliation. A life for the person who's being killed, because to protect him. And also a life to be a deterrence for the killer. It's a life. Imagine that the person, if he kills another person, he has to think that he will have the death penalty, not a life sentence of 25 years in a 4-star hotel, and then he's going to come out. Yeah? And that for him, it's not that a deterrence, is it? But if you think, oh, it's going to be death, it's according to the request of the family of the deceased, of the one who's been killed. If they said, we want retaliation, there will be retaliation, even if that person had repented and was really nice and all over. But the death in Islamic state, you will get the death penalty. And this type of retaliation is actually to preserve the life, not to take off the life. Because those serial killers, they have killed so many people. Even if you take them and lock them up, even in the prison itself, they might kill somebody inside the prison. So this qisas is to preserve the life, not to kill the life. The third one, التارك لدينه المفارق للجماعة, the one who leaves off his deen. The one who leaves off his deen, his Islam, he commits apostasy and he departs from the Jama'ah. The one who is apostate, because the Prophet of Allah, he said, he who had changed his religion, then he has to be death penalty, to be killed. Now there are other things by which also that the blood of a Muslim can be lawful. That means he could be killed for that. But those three, they have consensus. The other ones, some of them they are not, having consensus regarding them. So, for example, magic. If a person being caught making magic, and he is a person who's doing this knowing that the penalty is death, then the prescribed punishment, jazakallah khair, prescribed punishment for him will be death. And this can be under the third category, because he had also left his religion. Because magic is apostasy. Also, sodomy. In Islam, sodomy. The scholars have differed regarding to kill or not to kill, but the Sahaba had no difference about that the death penalty is his, but they differed regarding the type of punishment. Making sex with an animal, also some of the penalty is to be death. Also, burglary, you know, the bandits, as well as these people, if they did not kill, but they just showed the weapon, some scholars on some of the hakim might kill them as well. If two Khalifa were to be given the pledge, then kill one of them, as the Prophet ﷺ, إذا بويع لخليفتين فاقتلوا أحدهما أو الآخر منهما. الاستهانة بالمصحف, to ridicule the Quran by throwing it in the dustbin. This has come under as well the third category, which is you're committing apostasy. Denial of the prayer, that the prayer does not exist, that comes under as well the third category, committing apostasy, death penalty. So lots of things, as Imam ibn Hajar and Imam ibn Rajab al-Hanbali also, he had said there are 10. There is death penalty. Like for example, a person who drank the wine in the third time, the governor has the option to impose death upon him after amputation. So after lashing him 40 lashes, once, twice, the third time. Same thing with the thief. The fifth time, after he cuts all of his limbs, right hand and the left hand, and then after that, right foot, and the left foot has got nothing to make up now. So then maybe the judge will ask for his death because he's not good for the community. He ruins the community. He makes it unsafe. So these things that I mentioned, beside the three, they have difference among the scholars regarding them, except for the three that we have mentioned. So when the Prophet ﷺ, he says that there is no death penalty except in the three here, those three, the ones we have consensus, and whatever is authentic from the hadith of the Prophet of Allah can go as well to be added for that. And we're going to explain inshallah a bit more. What we learn from this hadith, that number one, we have to respect the blood of the Muslims. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يحل دم امرئ مسلم. It's not allowed for you to shed the blood of a Muslim. We're going to talk about the non-Muslim in a minute. And this is consensus. Quran, Sunnah, and consensus. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا. He who kills a believer deliberately. What is his punishment? Look at this. فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمْ. His abode is hellfire. خَالِدًا فِيهَا. To be abiding there forever. وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. And Allah's anger is upon him. وَلَعَنَهُ. And also he had cursed him. وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. 5 punishment. And he prepared for him a severe torment. So, Jahannam, hellfire. 2, abide there forever. 3, Allah's anger. 4, Allah's curse. 5, a severe torment. So, this is why it is one of the major sins. That's why Abdullah ibn Abbas hesitated. If the person had killed a believer for no due right, that he will enter paradise. He has considered him to be in the hellfire forever. But he changed his mind, got a 2 opinion, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and the correct opinion that he's under the will of Allah. He might forgive him, because the only thing that's not going to be forgiven is the shirk. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَوَّلُ مَا يُقْضَى بَيْنَ النَّاسِ الدِّمَاء. First thing that you're going to be accounted for regarding people dealing with each other, blood. First thing, ad-dima. Regarding your ibadah, as-salah. Regarding the affairs with your people, with the people, is the blood. Number 2, that the non-Muslim, if he is a warrior and he's not a mu'ahid or a musta'min or a dhimmi, then his blood is not sacred. What is a mu'ahid? What is musta'min? What is a dhimmi? So if this non-Muslim is fighting the Muslims and he's not from the dhimmi, dhimmi means a person who is living with the Muslims and he's paying his tax, like the Muslim, they pay the zakat. The tribute, they call it, the tribute. So it's called dhimmi, a non-Muslim living amongst the Muslims. The person who is musta'min is the one who came from a land, from a people whom we have war with them, yet he entered with the correct entry, the correct leave, the correct visa. Okay, so he came to sell, buy, came to the country, so he's under the protection, and his blood is lawful. You're not allowed to touch it because he came under that's called musta'min. That means he got the safety from you. He's been honored, the safe entry. Thirdly, and the other one, which is al-mu'ahid. Al-mu'ahid is that the people whom we have with them covenant. So a country with another country, we have a covenant. Al-musta'min is the one we have war with his land, but he came with a permission, a permit. But this one, we have a covenant, like the Prophet ﷺ had a covenant with the people of Quraysh in the truce of Al-Hudaybiyah. We learn from this as well that the one who is adulterer after he had married in his life is to be stoned to death. And the way to stone him to death is that he will stand up. If he's a male, a hole can be dug for him or not. But for a woman, it has to be a hole, a pit, where she be covered up to her heart, so that when she's pelted with stone, she does not show her body. She should be covered. And he will be in front of the people, and the Imam will start throwing as well with them, the Khalifa, the judge, and it's to be stones. It's not so small so that you torture him until he dies, and it's not too big as well to kill him from one go. So it's medium size. A'udhu billah. You don't want to be in such a situation. The person might say, how do you kill him in such barbaric, horrible way? Why shouldn't he be killed by a lethal injection, electrical chair, death by the sword, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَ. If you want to kill even an animal, kill it what? In the most relaxing way. فَأَحْسِن, make it nice. We say as an answer, make it nice. That means synchronizing with the Sharia. What the Sharia says to us how to kill him, then we kill him the way that Allah told us to kill him. So, for example, we slaughter the sheep. Some people might think, well, let's just, give him some sort of drugs to make him dizzy, so he doesn't really feel the slaughtering, all of that. How do you know that that sheep is relaxed for that way? You might be sickening him and torturing him before he dies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that the killing is that to kill him by the throat, there, and not to show him the knife, and to sharpen the knife, and to make it easy, and to kill him from there, and to place him towards the Qibla, to say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. That's the way which is called فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَ. Make it a nice killing. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا. Who's going to be better judge than the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala? So stoning the person who is an adulterer is from the ihsan of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, how this fornication is being established on the person? It's been established in the following way. Either number one, 4 witnesses, male. There have to be 4 male witnesses. Those people who are adl, meaning they pray, they're not liars, they're not going to be liars, they're not cheaters. So 4 just male Muslims. They have to see this. What? The private part of the male into the private part of the female. And that's why it's so impossible. Very hard. Up to the time of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, up to my time, there was not a single case where a person he has been condemned by adultery through 4 witnesses. And Ibn Taymiyyah in the year 700 after Hijrah. So you're talking about 700 years. Up to that time, he never heard about a person who has been penalized with this through what? 4 witnesses. It was very hard. At the time of Umar al-Khattab, Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he's been seeing this fornication. Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he testified in front of Umar al-Khattab in his reign of his Khilafah that he committed fornication. So he said to him, which is adultery, either you bring 3 other witnesses apart from yourself, or a lash you, because this is called defamation. And defamatory statement in Islam will get 80 lashes, 80 lashes. Abu Bakr is 100%, he showed. So he said, yes, I've got 3 witnesses. Second one witness came, yes, I have seen it. The mirwat fil mikhala, that means the rod into the, where the rod goes into, that means the private part of the private. He said, yes. Third one, yes. Not the fourth one. Fourth one, he said, I've seen something bad. I've seen something like hugging, but I didn't see the actual thing. I said, Allahu Akbar. Lashed him. He's happy. Because this is death penalty. So he lashed the three. According to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, he said, after he's been like, Wallahi, he had fornicated. Because he saw it his own eye. Wallahi, he did. He was going to go lash him again, 80 lashes. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, O leader of the believers, if you're going to lash him again, then you have to stone your partner, that man, the Mughira. Why? Because it will be 4 testimonies. It will be second time testimonies. So Abu Bakr is like he's been told, if you haven't got 3 witnesses with you, don't dare to go and give a testimony because you'll be lashed. All of them were lashed, 80 lashes each. That's why Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, as I said, he said, up to my time, I've never heard any person had been condemned with adultery through this way of through this way of affirmation that he had done it. Second one is confession, and I'm going to talk about confession in a minute, inshallah. And the third one is the woman being pregnant. Okay, now confession. Is it a condition that the confession is to be 4 times? Why am I saying this? Because in the story of Ma'iz ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he who had committed adultery came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Messenger of Allah, purify me. What have you done? He said, I committed adultery. He said, woe to you, go back. The Prophet refused to accept his testimony. He came the second time, the third time, and every time the Prophet said, is he crazy, this man? Does he know what he's talking about? It looks like he didn't know that the punishment is what? Stoning to death. He didn't know. He knew it's haram, but he didn't know it was stoning to death. Then he started saying, asking, maybe he's crazy. Ask these people. Something wrong with him. No, he's okay. Then this Prophet started smelling him. Maybe he's drunk. Then he said and started asking blunt questions. Did you hug her? Maybe hug. No. I fornicated. Did you maybe kiss her? No. I fornicated. Then the Prophet had to use the actual word, which is not to be used by the Prophet at all, except for that once, which is a very rude word in Arabic. I can't say it unless I'm in a similar situation, because this is to save the person from what? From death, because maybe he doesn't know. And that word is equivalent into English is the F word, is the F, rude word. The man, he said, yes, I've done it. So he asked for him to be stoned to death. They put him and then started pelting him with stones. Soon as he saw this, he said, my people, they've conned me, because these people told him to go and ask for purification. They have conned me. They started running off from them until one of the companions called Abdullah ibn Unais radiallahu anhu, he saw him running, so the companions behind him, he took like a jawbone, he threw it on him, he hit him in a fatal position, he died. Prophet ﷺ said, you should have let him. I wanted to know, maybe he wanted to change his statement. He's allowed. So this story says, is it has to be for confession? Okay. Well, we have, as I said, a difference amongst the scholars. Some of them said, no, one confession, as long as it is well-known story. Why do they say this? The woman whom the person who had fornicated with her, and he was a person hired by her husband. So a person who's married hired a person, a youth man, and that youth fornicated with his wife. So this story became very famous. And it was said to his father that you should now ransom your son. How? With 100 sheep and free slave. So he did. He gave 100 sheep for the sake of Allah, and gave 100 sheep for the husband of that woman, and also he had freed a slave and give a slave as well. So, and then he asked his people of knowledge. They said to him, no, it's not right. You have to have your son 100 lashes, exiled for 1 year, and for the woman who is the wife of that man, she has to be stoned to death because she's a married woman. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ, And Prophet of Allah, as soon as he told by the man what he had done regarding his son, he said, as for the sheep and as for the slave, you have to return them back to you. There's no such thing. And as for your son, he has to be lashed 100 lashes, and he has to be exiled for 1 year because he never been married before. And as for the woman, if she confesses, then he told Abdullah, he told Unais radiallahu anh, or Anis, I should say, he said to him, go and see. If she confessed, then stone her. She confessed, then stone her. In this, the Prophet of Allah did not say to him, if she confessed what? 4 times. If she confessed, then stone her. So that's why we have a different understanding. The correct opinion, it's no way that we have to ask a person who's got common sense and knows what he's talking about, I'm not going to accept your confession. Come back again. Second time, come back again. That's not correct. The correct opinion is 1 is enough, unless there is something makes the person who's a judge to doubt. Maybe he's not sure. Like the Prophet of Allah with Ma'az. Because he came to him, Messenger of Allah, purify me. He didn't say, for example, stone me. He didn't know what he's talking about. So the Prophet of Allah is seeing this young man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He refused to accept his confession for 4 times. 3 times, and the 4th time, he had implemented the punishment. But that is not the thing that to use when something has happened like this. Once is enough, unless there is something that makes the judge to doubt his testimony, then he will ask him to confess maybe again in different circumstances. Now, sodomy. Is it like fornication? Well, according to the Muslim point of view, the sodomy is worse than fornication. Now, is there any difference among the scholars regarding the punishment? Well, the sodomy, regardless whether they were married before or not married before, the sodomy, it doesn't matter whether they're married before or not married before. The penalty upon them, they differ. Some of them, they said they will be lashed 100 lashes. But what is the proof for that? Some of them, they said, no. The one who does it and the one who's been done to him, both is to be killed. And the correct opinion, because of the hadith of the Prophet said, "Man wajadtumuhu ya'malu 'amala qawmi Lut, faqtulu al-fa'ila wal-maf'ula bih." This hadith is authentic. Who you've seen him doing the sodomy of what people of Lut alayhi salam used to do, that the person who is on the top and the person who's at the bottom, both of them is to be killed. But the Sahaba differed about the way of killing. They differed. And this is something that, imagine now, imagine now it became the norm. See, when you see a man with a woman, you'll start saying, why is this person having this woman? I don't think she's his sister. I don't think she's, So a person who would be shy as a Muslim to be with a woman who is not a mahram to her, or he's not, he's her husband. Do you understand me? He will be shy. You see somebody, sheikh, or somebody who his wife, what she look like. And or you're his cousin, for example. Sheikh, you hanging out with a woman. But when he hangs out with a man, nobody would suspect, is it? I'm hanging out with Jumaadaa. Can you imagine, hanging out with Jumaadaa. Nobody would say Jumaadaa or me doing something like this. So God forbid that we're doing it, nobody knows. But with a woman, a person would be shameful. It's a woman. But with a man, it doesn't take place. Fine. Now we're coming to if this person had committed the adultery and his blood became lawful, is it anybody can implement that law? No. It is the judge, the Khalifa, or whoever he appoints. For that, the Prophet said, Ughdu ya Anis, or Anis, go and see if she confessed, then implement the death penalty upon him. So it is not allowed for anybody to take the law into his hand. That's chaos. Now the second one we say is an-nafsu bin-nafs, to kill a person because he killed another person. Now, what about if the killer was from the origin of the killed one? What is the origin? I mean, his father, the father of his father, great-great-grandfather. The scholar differs. Should be killed or not? Father killed his own son deliberately. Scholars have differed. In the correct opinion, what we believe is that he should not be killed. Why? Because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That is, لا يقتل الوالد بولده. the father will not be killed because he had killed his son. Same thing with the mother. Because it's very rare the father would kill his son. Very rare the mother would do so. So it has been reached at a point they've done so. So they will be imprisoned. They will be whatever punishment, but not the death penalty. Thirdly, the person who is abandoned his religion, apostate. Okay. Now, is he to be given the choice to repent? So you've caught him committed apostasy. He denies the prayer. He said, I'm a kafir. I'm not a Muslim anymore. He denounced Islam. Do we give him a chance to say the repentance? Because the Prophet said, he who changes religion, then death penalty is his fate. He's going to be killed. Some of the scholars, they said, is to be given 3 days for repentance. Some of them, they said, no repentance. Correct opinion, each person who is originally disbeliever, who is being caught in the war, or a person who is murtad, person who has committed apostasy, if he's to repent, then his repentance is to be accepted. But there is an exception. If a person, a Muslim or non-Muslim, in an Islamic state, had insulted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he repented, his repentance is to be accepted, but the death penalty will take place. If he insulted the Almighty Azza wa Jal and repented, his repentance will be accepted, but there will be no death penalty. So somebody might say, "Does you telling me that insulting the Prophet is more of a crime than insulting the Almighty?" No, of course. Insulting the Almighty is bigger crime than the insulting of the Prophet. But Allah Azza wa Jal had said, for the one who insulted him, for the one who committed apostasy regarding him, if he's to repent, Allah accepted his repentance. But for us, the Prophet ﷺ, we don't have the Prophet amongst us to say that I have forgiven you. Because he insulted about a person who had died already, who was the Prophet of Allah, the most best person in the eyes of the Muslims on the face of the earth, the best creature. Because the Prophet of Allah, he's not there to pardon him, the death penalty will take place. You might say, well, some people insulted the Prophet of Allah at his time, and he had pardoned them. So, well, we knew at that time he pardoned them, but now we don't know. He died. That's why the person who insulted the Prophet in an Islamic state, death penalty will take place. If he repented to Allah, his repentance will be accepted with Allah. But the prescribed punishment, the death, will take place. Because the Prophet of Allah is not alive to drop his right. Fine. We're going now to Hadith number 15, please, Ahmed.
الحديث الخامس عشر عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت، ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم جاره، ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. رواه البخاري ومسلم. Hadith 15, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said: let him who believes in Allah and the last day speak good or keep silent, and let him who believes in Allah and the last day be generous to his neighbor, and let him who believes in Allah and the last day be generous to his guest. Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
Can I ask you to please spotlight me, please? This hadith is from the hadith which we said, Jawami'ul Kalim, collective words. In it, there is the etiquettes and the virtues and the excellence. It has the etiquette with the Almighty Azza wa Jal, that is to say, only what pleases Allah. And also etiquette with the creation of Allah, and that is, He will not do except for the good with them. And from another angle, it is actually combines this hadith between abandoning the bad, and that is by abandoning what is not supposed to be done, and also to adopt what is good and blessing, and that is by doing what is supposed to be done. In the hadith of Al-Aswad ibn Asram, he said, I said, Messenger of Allah, command me. He said, Hal tamliku lisanak? Do you control your tongue? Messenger of Allah. What am I going to be in control of if I don't have any control of my tongue? He said, do you control your hand? Messenger of Allah. What am I going to be having any control of if I don't have any control on my hand? He said, then do not say with your tongue except with good. And do not stretch your hand except for good. This is in Sahih Targhib Tarhib. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah makes it authentic. This hadith says, Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir. He who believes in Allah, the last day. Now, it tells us that these things are coming, those things which is after this, are from the Iman. From the Iman. Because he who believes in Allah on the last day, then let him. 1, 2, 3. So whatever is 1, 2, 3 now is going to be from the things which is related to the Iman, to the faith. And that also indicates that the actions is from the Iman, because all of them are actions. Also, that he who does not embark upon these things, that the Prophet of Allah he had said, his Iman will be deficient, it will not be complete. And that those things, they are from the compulsory. They are from the compulsory. It is not correct to say that if something is from the etiquette, it cannot be compulsory. No, some of the etiquettes are to be compulsory. We could see them from the way that the hadith is being said. Like, for example, it says this hadith that this is to be linked to the Iman. Like this hadith says, Man kana, he will believes in Allah. And the last day, then let him. Because of that, those etiquettes became what? Compulsory. Because they link to they are a condition for your Iman. Right. First one, man says here, فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Let him say good or let him be quiet. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَا خَيْرَ فِي كَثِيرٍ مِّن نَجْوَى. There is no good in so many of their speeches, of their talks, إِلَّا except مَنْ أَمَرَ بِصَدَقَةٍ أَوْ مَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ إِصْلَاحٍ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Except for the one who commands to pay charity, or ma'ruf, good thing, or rectification between the people. Those are the ones who are doing good. So it is important to abandon the speech which doesn't contain good. Why? Because number one, talking any talk, it might lead you to something which is disliked or even haram, backbiting. And people chit-chatting, those chit-chatters, they chit-chat and stuff. They don't leave any flesh of any brother except they had a bite from it. I'm talking about ghibah, talking about backbiting. You know, this person did this and this. You know, that woman, she did this and this. You know, subhanallah. Subhanallah. They don't get filled from this flesh of their dead body. Allah, he said, like he said regarding this issue, he's like eating a person who is dead. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. You don't like to eat it. You are like eating him when he's dead, because he's not alive. Because if he's alive, if you bite him, he'll bite you back. But because he's not there, you're taking your time to go and talk about him. But if he's there, you dare to talk about him. You're a coward. So you are a coward. So chit-chat too much into this, it will lead you to something which is haram. Sometimes to flatter somebody. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man samata naja. He who is being quiet, then he got salvation. Second issue, that he who all the time keeps his control in check, observes what he says, then he will be all the time keen to observe his limbs. He controls his tongue, definitely controls his other limbs. Prophet ﷺ, he said, he who guarantees for me what is between his jaw, and that is the tongue, and what is between his legs, and that is his private part, I'll guarantee for him Jannah. Guarantee these two. That means they do things halal, and I'll guarantee for you that you're going to be entering Jannah. Then let him, he said, قال فليقل خيرا. Let him say good. The good is number one in itself, good in itself. For example, dhikrullah, recitation of Quran, tasbih, tahmeed, saying subhanallah, that's good in itself. Enjoining good, forbidding evil, all of that good in itself. Or good to others. It's not good in itself, but it's good to lead to good. Like, for example, making a person who's a Muslim in misery, depression, to be enjoying. So you are letting for good things or rejoice, entering the heart of your brother, or you are entertaining your guests, you're being kind to them. All of this will lead to good because these people will start to socialize with you and feel comfortable with you. Now, when we said he who had gone quiet, he got salvation, it doesn't mean, what's your name? I'm not speaking. Why? Because salvation, if I get quiet. No, that's a bid'ah. That's a bid'ah. If you think you're just being quiet every time a person talks to you, or being quiet in achieving a certain ibadah, then that's a bid'ah, whether it is hajj or sawm or i'tikaf. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in the hadith, وَلَا صُمَاتَ يَوْمٍ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. You're not allowed to stay quiet from the day until the night. So you have like if you're fasting from the food, and also you're fasting from what? From the talk. There's no such thing. Ibn Abbas, he said, Prophet ﷺ, while he was giving a khutbah, he saw a man. He asked about him. They said, he's Abu Israel. That's his kunya. He had made a vow to stand up, and he does not to sit. And he made a vow, he does not shade himself. He's all the time in the sun. And he made a vow not to speak. And he made a vow to fast. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, command him, let him talk. That's not correct. Command him, let him talk. And let him seek shade. What is he doing with the sun, burning himself? Unless you're having a suntan, that's something else. But this person had made a vow to get closer to Allah by doing that. Okay, and let him sit. What sort of ibadah are you doing by standing up? I'm getting closer to Allah by standing up, by not shading myself, by not talking. All of that rubbish. And then the last one, because it's correct, because it's fatting, let him fulfill the fast. So the only vow which was respected and allowed in giving the green light by the Prophet of Allah is the what? Fast. Not the standing up, not the one to shade, not to shade yourself, and not the one not to speak. All of those, Prophet said, no, take them away, because it's a bid'ah. Then it says here also, فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَ. Second one, مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيُكْرِمْ. Let him honor. The honoring, ya ikhwani, it is that you yourself get the best of manners towards the person whom you're going to honor him. And it differs your honoring to each person regarding his situation, his status. So honoring a poor person, you might give him sweetie, or £5 or £2, or you give him a bowl of soup. But if you give that to somebody who is rich, he'll find that is what? Absurd. He'll find that this is like you are demeaning him, you are belittling him. What are you doing giving me this? I'm not in need of bread. So honoring, it depends of the person that you're honoring. So your falyukrim, let you honor, you have to honor in the right manner. Same thing with your neighbors as well. So your neighbor maybe will be satisfied with a box of chocolate. But some neighbors, if you give them a box of chocolate, they will say, no, it's not right. Some neighbors will be accepting even a bowl of soup. We've got no meat. Some of them say, why are you giving me this? You're throwing the extra overflow soup that you got into me. So you have to, depending upon whom you're going to be honoring. So also the honoring depends on how close that, for example, that neighbor to you. Because he said, فَلْيُكْرِمْ جَارَهُ, let him honor his neighbor. The one who is closest, geographically speaking, the one who's door closer to you is to be more honored. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, Messenger of Allah, I've got two neighbors. To which one should I give the gift? I've got one gift. To which one? She said, إِلَىٰ أَقْرَبِهِمَا مِنْ كِبَامًا. To the one who is got closer door to you. Well, closer door to you, you give him that. So فَلْيُكْرِمْ جَارَهُ, let him honor his neighbor. It involves being smiling to him. You smile to his face. Being as well to prevent your harm to reach him. Also, that is to be patient regarding any harm coming from him. Also, to be kind to him. All of those under the word falyukrim, let him honor his neighbor. Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you had heard your neighbors saying, you've done well, then you've done well. And if you have heard them saying, you've done bad, and you've done bad. So if you want to ask about a person who had asked for the hand of your daughter. Best people ask the neighbors. They will tell you the secrets of those people. How many times they had the police car parking in front of their house. How many times they've been shouting and they were listening to them. How many? The neighbors, close. So let's just talk about being bad to the neighbor, how Islam rebuked that and said severe statement. Allah ibn Mas'ud, he said, asked the Prophet, what is the greatest sin in the sight of Allah? He said, to take a deity with Allah Azza wa Jal, and He had created you. Messenger of Allah. Okay, well, this is a very great sin. Then what after that? He said, you kill your son, fearing that he will eat with you, along with you. Then Messenger of, then what? He said, that is to fornicate with the wife of your neighbor. Because your neighbor, you see, he had settled for you, he had trusted you, you have access to his house. So you take advantage now by stealing from his house, by fornicating with the wife of his. Prophet he said, for you to fornicate with 10 women, less sinful, better for you to fornicate with the wife of your neighbor. For you to steal from 10 houses, less sinful in sight of Allah, better for you than to steal from the house of your neighbor. Look at that. How much sins are going to be involved in taking advantage of your neighbor and being bad to him. Abu Hurairah, he said that the man said, Messenger of Allah, so and so, a woman, she's been mentioned that she prays Allah, she does mashallah a lot of fast, she does a lot of sadaqah, yet he harms her neighbor with her tongue. So the Prophet said, she's in hell. Messenger of Allah, so and so, another woman, she prays only the obligatory, no voluntary, not like the other woman. She fasts only the obligatory, not the voluntary. She gives sadaqah with peanuts, something which is like not that much money. But she does not harm her neighbor with her tongue. So he said she's in paradise. See? I have to be careful about our neighbors. Now, our Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah in Silsila al-Da'ifa, he said, the hadith which says the one who is 40 doors away from you is from the neighbors, that is not authentic. But there is nothing in the Sharia to limit when is the last and the neighbor it could be considered as a neighbor. What is you call it the area, the catchment area for the neighbors? We don't know. But the one who's closer to you door-wise, he is closer than the other one. But as to be that the doors are limited to 40, that is not authentic, and that depends upon the urf. Urf means the customs. What do people regard? Is the last person in the street is your neighbor or not? What do people regard that? So when you have neighborhood watch, yeah, neighborhood watch. Now, fine. Now, coming to the following, فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ. He who believes in Allah on the last day, let him honor his guest, being also in your face, smiling. Also, you will be speaking to him in a very good manner. Thirdly, you could bring him whatever you have from the food. And this is the honoring of the guests. Entertaining the guests, you entertain him with the best of your house. Not to keep the nasty thing, the less quality things in your house, keep that to your neighbor. We don't do that. We give the neighbor the best. Abu Shuraih al-Ka'bi, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, he who believes in Allah, the last day, let him honor his guests, for verily his prize. Let him honor his guests, his prize, the day and the night. And the entertainment of the guests is 3 days. After that, it's a sadaqah. Then he says, and it's not lawful for a person who's the guest, that is to stay with him until he puts him in embarrassment. So the guest should not stay more than what? 3 days, maximum. Unless the host accepted that, no problem, stay more. But to stay more than this is not correct. Prophet said, it's not lawful for a Muslim to stay with his brother until he makes him a sinner. Messenger of Allah, how can he make him a sinner? He stays with him and there is nothing there with the host to go and entertain him with. It's got nothing. Now, so the entertainment of the guests, which is compulsory upon the person, is 3 days. And usually it is the case. The 1 day is the first day, and the other 2 days is the more entertainment. But if the guest, he felt that he's now a heavy guest, and the person cannot really accommodate because he's got work, he has to leave, he can't leave him behind with his wife and all of that, he should be a light guest. He should be a light guest. And if the host, Jazahullahu khairan, he had to take the burden of him being poor yet to entertain the guest, this is called ihsan, the ultimate. This is what happened with this Ansari. When the man came to the Prophet ﷺ as a guest, Prophet of Allah asked his wife, do you have anything to entertain the guest? He said, Messenger of Allah, we don't have except for the water. This is the house of the Prophet of Allah. Nothing except for the water. Man from the Ansar is a Messenger of Allah. I will look after him. This man, it looks like he's a poor person, but he took the burden to honor this guest. So he went to his wife, he said to her, I've got the guest of the Prophet of Allah, special guest. We have to honor him. What do you have as food? She said, but only the food that I kept for the supper, late night food for your children. He said, well, we have to keep it to the guest now. Try to make your children sleep before they reach the time when they ask for the food. Make them to, busy them with something else. And when the guests come, because the food is really not that much, take off the lantern, the light, to put it out, and let's pretend that we are eating, because it's not enough for them all. So get the guests to eat first. And at that time as well, it's allowed for the guests to eat along with the wife of the companion, as long as she's covered. So the Prophet ﷺ had heard what happened from the Almighty Azza wa Jal. He's been having revelation of what these people had done. She put the lantern off, she made the children sleep, and they started to pretend that they are eating while the guest is eating. Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ajib Allahu min amrikuma. Dahik Allahu min amrikum. Allah had smiled, the smile which is suitable to His Majesty. Allah is amazed, the amazement of suitable to His Majesty from what you have done last night. The following verse was revealed because of them. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. And they give preference over themselves, even they have need. They are in need, but they give preference over themselves to the other people. Now, I want to indicate a very important point here. When I said guest, entertainment of the guest is for 3 days. Brothers, this is to do with when you are going to an area which is a remote, and there's only a few houses there. But if you go to the big cities, and there is, mashallah, hotels, booking.com, booking.com and all of that, that is not there. Okay? So I could come to you and give you food, but I could say to you, brother, okay, if you haven't got the money, I'll just pay for you to book you. You don't have to stay in the house. So now in the big cities, there's no such thing that you're going to take me to court because I did not give you the 3 days. But if it's in a remote area, you could take me to court in Islam. He did not give me my entertainment. 3 days. If you don't give him, the judge will take it from you as a host, and give it to the guests. But as I said, now, no problem, because we have hotels and all of that. So it is not to be asked. Right. Hadith Sadis Ashar, we'll leave it inshallah for next time. We'll give you question and answer, because I want to wake you up. Okay, right. If you have any questions, please, regarding what we have said, let's just give another 20 minutes for questions and answers. Fadal.
All of those principles you mentioned regarding honoring your neighbor, do these principles apply to non-Muslims? If not, what extra?
The entertainment of the guest, the guest is for the Muslim and the non-Muslim. You entertain him. You entertain the non-Muslim as well. And it could be a reason for him to embrace Islam. You must have heard about this Turkish person who had entertained a guest who became a Da'iyah, Romanian. Google it. It's in English. This person, him and his wife, they were Christian. They went to Turkey, as lots of people go to Turkey for tourism. He lost his hotel. He went into a remote village in the middle of nowhere. But he's got the card which says the address of his hotel. So he saw a man. So I spoke to him. I said to him, blah, 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 blah. Where is this? So he didn't understand that much, but he said to him, now it's late. It was Maghrib time. You stay with me. The following day, when it's really daylight, you could go. So they accepted. So they took him, and they felt the warmth of the hospitality. And they entered the house. They found his mother, his wife, and his kids. They made him nice food. Him and his wife eating along with them. And then they said, now you stay here. We will sleep in the other rooms. It was dark outside. So following day, he said, I have opened the door, and it's only that room. There's no such house, no such rooms. And I found these guys, him and his wife and his mother and his kids, underneath the tree, sleeping with a quilt. It's a real story, I'm not making this up. You've seen it, yeah? Very touchy. So he was there underneath the tree. So he came and I said to him, are you crazy? What are you doing? Are you crazy? He said, no, I'm not crazy. He said, this is Islam. He said, when he said that word, his face was lit. It's like there's shining from him. Shine. Islam. His face was like a daylight. It's Islam. He said to him, can you tell me something? I want to read about Islam. He said, I'm no good English, but there is Quran. He told me to go and buy Quran. So I bought the Quran within a week or so. Within a month or less or more. Just a few month or two, he became a Muslim. Now, how many Muslims turned through this guy? This guy now is a Romanian. And when his wife became Muslim, they have opened Islamic centers in Romania. More than 80. So how many Muslims have entered? All of those, they're going to be recorded for that person who had made him a Muslim. He will have a share of that reward. Because he made that guy to become Muslim, and that person, he made a whole generation to become Muslim. Entertaining the guests. Very important. So many people went to Qatar for this World Cup. The thing that amazed them is the hospitality of the people. How nice the people. It's not like with the media trying to portray a very bad image of the Muslims as terrorism. A'udhu billah. A'udhu billah. You know, I was really shocked that with the national anthem of the Saudi Arabian, when they went into the World Cup, I didn't see the match. I didn't see any match. But I've seen that when they started the national anthem, Saudi Arabia has got Allahu Akbar in it. It's all of it Islam. Is being cut by the media here. They don't want people to hear the word, well, Allahu Akbar. Did you know about this? Google it. Has been taken. You've been put in the dark. You don't know these things, but you find it from those people who are the Muslim world. They will tell you. BBC cut it off and had to apologize. They stopped. They muted the voice with the Allahu Akbar and the words of Islam that is with the national anthem of Saudi Arabia is not to be heard. Where is the justice? They call it justice. Where is the equality? Where is the thing? Nothing. Can I ask for? Just my battery is going down. Messi put in the Arabic gap. Subhanallah. War against him. He put Italian clothes. Nobody said anything. He put back Pelé put a Mexican hat. Nobody said anything. But because he just put this Arabic cap, Allahu Musta'an. Why? Well, I know that we're not really doing what we're supposed to do, but Islam is what Allah wants the people to embrace. So whether we fail or don't fail, Islam is the religion going to supersede, whether we like it or not. But it's us. Are we going to be going with the caravan, or we're going to drop down and leave it? Now, questions here. Think from the sister. My friend is converting to Islam. However, his parents do not know. How do I give him guidance without disrespecting his parents? So your friend is converting to Islam. This person, your friend's parents, your friend is converting to Islam. and his parents do not know about it, make sure that this person is above the age. It's not a child because they're not allowed, okay, to go and make somebody who's below the age, because you're going to be in trouble. Maybe the parents will put a case against you. So he has to be a person who's above 16 or above, not below that, low-wise. Number two, he doesn't have to declare in front of his parents that he's a Muslim. But what he should do, he should be more of good to his parents after embracing Islam than what he was before Islam. Islam tells him to be better to his parents. Better to his parents. Now, Wallahu a'lam. Fadal.
Hadith number 14, to say father or a mother who killed their sons or daughter are not supposed to be killed.
Father and mother.
They killed their son.
Put your hands down, because I have to think of the question. Huh?
They killed their son or daughter.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be killed.
Yeah.
But what punishment are they supposed to get?
The punishment depends upon the hakim, the judge. He might put them in prison 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. But some scholars, they said, no, he should be killed. Like Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he says he should be killed. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen said he should be killed. Look. Now. Problem. You always put your hands after the question, not the question, because you panic me, so I don't know. Yes.
It's a question regarding the witr prayer. If a person,
regarding the witr prayer, no.
The person in the habit is praying one witr.
Mm-hmm.
He prays 2 rawatib for the Isha and he prays 1 witr. For some reason he wasn't able to pray the witr because he went to sleep. When he makes up, does he pray 2 witr, or because the Prophet said they should even it out? So does the person make it?
So this person, he had prayed his odd number before he slept? I don't understand.
So the person, he only prayed his 2 rawatib Isha.
Yeah, 2 sunnah.
2 sunnah. But he didn't pray witr.
Yeah, okay.
Because he went to sleep.
Okay, he went to sleep. When he wakes up, he makes witr.
Did he make it 2 or did he make it?
Then he makes witr. He prays the witr. من نام عن وتره فليصلي إذا ذكر. Prophet, he who had slept through the witr did not pray it. Then let him pray it as soon as he remembers it. Because you wanted to pray the witr. So you get up even after Fajr, even after sunrise, you do the witr. Do you understand that? Because you wanted to do the witr.
How many rak'ahs? How many rak'ahs?
You pray the witr. I mean, 3 rak'ah, 5 rak'ah, 1 rak'ah. Odd. You're asking odd, isn't it? I don't even. You pray odd.
But I thought, like, if you was to call, like, if you missed it and when you make it up, do you make it even? Yeah, person to have it.
Yeah, you make the witr. Witr means odd. You pray it as it is. But there is a hadith where it says that this person, he would pray like duha, if he misses qiyam. This is a person who did not plan to pray the witr. He doesn't. So, can we just have this off here? So he did not plan for it. Then he prays his duha, prays 2, 2, 2. But if you all the time pray your witr and you slept through it, once you remember it, you pray it as it is. You pray 3, you pray 5, you pray 7. Odd. He's trying to say that, can I pray 2, 2? No, I'm saying odd. Okay, 3, or it could be 1, whatever. Now.
I was watching a video on the YouTube. There was a guy who was having dialogue with the Christian. So the Christian was asking him, if I become a Muslim and then I come off from Islam, would I be killed? So the guy, when he was trying to explain it, he said, you can only be killed if you're apostate and then become quiet, then you won't be killed. But if you speak against it, then you will be killed.
Yeah, so a person, if he Muslim and he left Islam, doesn't matter, Muslim, he left Islam, or a person, he was not a Muslim, became a Muslim and he left Islam. The death penalty is implemented of him when he denounced it openly. So in his heart, nobody knows what is in his heart. The hypocrites, they were pretending to be Muslim, but they were kuffar. None of them were killed at the time of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, you can't be as kafir as him. You cannot. The kafir cannot be as kafir as him. Yet the Prophet did not command him to be killed because he shows Islam. But in his heart is kufr. full kufr. So if this person denounces Islam and it's between him and his Lord, nobody's going to touch him. It's his choice, freedom of choice. But if you start to call the people and tell the people and that's the people, then the judge will come and ask you. In Islamic state, you're talking about something which is imaginary, no? At the moment, it's not reality.
But when everybody will understand he is not a Muslim anymore, when he stops praying, isn't it? Like it will be obvious that he's not a Muslim anymore.
Now, a person who stops praying is not Muslim anymore, because this is controversial. Most of the scholars, they say he's not a kafir. He's still a Muslim. Most of the scholars. It's only saying of the sayings of Imam Ahmad. Even Imam Ahmad has got different sayings, got 4 sayings regarding the person. And Imam Ibn Abdul Wahhab, he said nothing we could say about a person is a kafir except for the shahadatayn, denouncing the shahada. As for the prayer, fast and siyam, if he believes in it but he doesn't do it, he's a criminal. But he says a kafir, no. It's controversial. You tell me, where is that cemetery that belongs to the Muslims who do not pray? It doesn't exist. Lots of Muslims do not pray. I mean, not lots, I mean, the majority, but lots. And I'm talking about the time of the Muslim states when the Islam was implemented in its, precision. Yet, we don't find people who are buried in the non or the Islamic cemetery for the Muslim who do not pray. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. That's a big proof to say that the Muslim who abandoned his prayer out of laziness, he is still under the will of Allah. The Hadith says it. The Hadith says it. Because the ones who say the kafir, they still have difference among themselves. How many prayers should he leave in order to become a kafir? They are not really having same opinion. Some of them, they said if he left a prayer. Some of them said no, 3 days prayer. Some of them, they haven't got agreement. How many prayers should he leave to make him as a kafir? No.
And is the punishment stoning again for the person who left Islam? Is the punishment done with stoning? Punishment,
the apostates, no. The apostate is only stoning to death is only for the one who was married. While he committed the fornication, who was married in his life, a valid marriage. This is the one who's got the stoning to death. A very terrifying death. And as a person committed apostasy or the magician, all of that, that is the sword. The sword. No, in Islam. Further.
How far can you go before you do taqsir in the salah?
How?
How far? How many kilometers to do?
قصر مش تقصير. ايوه. تقصير يعني تفضل صلي. How many miles that a person can be considered as a traveler? There's no such thing how many miles. It's the place that you're going to. Do the people considered to be traveling or not? So in Bedford, it's a big county, Bedfordshire. I think if you go from one end to another, still you're not counted as a traveler. And you could be going 15 miles, 20 miles still in Bedfordshire. So going, for example, from here to London, everybody said traveling. I'm traveling to London. When you go to Luton, some of you said, not traveling, I'm traveling. You're different. You're not having the same opinion. Do you understand? But Milton Keynes, which is close to Milton Keynes, isn't it?
Easier.
How much? Many miles? 15? 10?
About 12.
Yeah, 12. Do you say I'm traveling to Milton Keynes? I'm going to Milton Keynes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Milton Keynes is not traveling. The other ones, it depends upon the person himself, what he regards. This is very, very controversial regarding this. We can't have any sort of a distance to say you're a traveler. Because if you had a distance, it's still going to cause you trouble. I could go from one route, it gives me that particular distance, could change that route and make it less. So Google can make you traveling or not traveling. And then Sheikh Google, am I traveling or not? Let me recalculate for you and give you a different route to make you a traveler. Now, right. You have any questions? Yalla Masood. Hang on. Tafadhal.
Actually, from the conference, you said about your brother in bidding. Was wondering if you
if you're in an auction house, bidding for like businesses or houses, and there's a lot of brothers there, does that come
Okay, but what you have heard from the hadith, which is not to inflate the price. To inflate the price so that your brother will be conned by this. As for betting, no problem. It's betting, for example. This is not being sold. It's going to be sold to the highest bidder. No problem. But it's a problem if a person there in the betting, he is betting not for the sake of betting, for the sake of putting the prices up. That's haram. Do you understand that? Also, it is haram that it's not betting. I am selling this mobile and I gave it to you. Okay, £100, £100. So that person had accepted to give me £100, accepted to give me the mobile. You came from nowhere. Why? I'll give you 200. Okay, that's haram. And for me to say, brother, sorry, I'm not going to sell you the mobile. Got another better deal here. I've already made my word. So while it's making my word, you're not supposed to intervene. Okay, but the other one is everybody says to intervene. We're telling you to go on. The highest bidder will take it. No problem. But you know that in eBay, these people who there, they just try to inflate the price and they're not real buyers, true or not. I don't know if the eBay did done something about them. But I know people that just go in the last moment, put the price up. No. Okay, inshallah. Hold on.
This filling of the apostles, right? So how does this reconcile with no compulsion in religion?
No compulsion in religion, which is exactly the same word as it. No compulsion in religion. Nobody made you to choose the Islam.
If somebody leaves by his choice, it's against.
So if you enter Islam, make sure they enter it that it's all good. If you want to leave Islam, whether you have entered Islam or you became or you're Muslim from the beginning, leave it quietly. No compulsion on religion. Why do you want to make a fuss and go to BBC? You know, I became not Muslim and I'm inviting you to. You are trying to fight Islam here. So between you and your heart, nobody's saying to you what you want to do. No compulsion on religion. We don't want to be more. We don't want you to embrace Islam at the gun point. Embrace Islam or I'll kill you. What's the point of becoming a Muslim? No compulsion in religion. Now, la ikraha fi din. So choose the deen if you want, but don't post about it. Fadal. Right, Mas'ud. Yalla ikhwani.
Sheikh, if you travel for Umrah with your wife, and if she's because usually travel for like 4 days in Mecca and 4 days in Medina, sometimes so if she had her monthly period didn't end it while she was in Mecca, can she go to Medina and then come back and finish her tawaf if she's still in a monthly period, or she must remain in Mecca?
So you're asking that this woman entered Mecca, the state of Ihram, while she's on her menses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Right. So she made her Ihram and she's in Mecca. Now, can she go and leave the area of Ihram and come back again? No problem. So she will go to Medina and make Ihram from there. No problem. Again, but she's still in state of Ihram. You understand me? She's still in state of Ihram. No problem.
So she doesn't have to make another when she come back. She no longer have her menses. When she come back from Medina to Mecca, she makes the
tawaf and the salah and the cutting of the hair.
Does she make
the tawaf and the salah and the sa'i and cutting the hair?
Does she make so she doesn't have to do the Allahumma labbaik umrah again while she's coming from Medina to?
No, she doesn't. She's still in state of ihram. She doesn't, but the other people are going to come with her. They're going to do umrah, aren't they?
Okay, so other people can
her
do
husband's going to do umrah, isn't he?
So he can do it again while even though he didn't.
Yes, of course he can, because he went outside.
Okay. And also it's a similar question. So if somebody goes from here to, let's say, Jeddah, and he can stay one night in Jeddah, then go to Mecca next day, no issue, right? To do the
somebody gone to Jeddah and he's already in the state of ihram, already had put his ihram in the plane.
Right.
Yeah, and he's in Jeddah. Yeah, he doesn't have to do it on the first day. Could do it on the third day, no problem. But he's still in state of ihram.
Right. Okay. Jazakallah khair.
Exactly. Yalla Zuhra.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam tarakat.
So a sister who works as a carer, she said that when it's Maghrib Salah time, she sits on a bench outside in a public place and prays. Is that allowed?
You mean sitting down or?
Sitting on a bench, yeah, sitting down.
She does not stand up?
No.
No, she's not allowed. She has to do is standing up. She's on land, isn't she? She's not flying.
What about praying outside in a public place? Is that allowed for women?
As long as her back is covered, she's braced with the back versus wall or something, a tree. Nobody can go from the back of hers. No problem.
Okay, Jazakallah khaira.
Naam ya Ahmad.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykhana. Shaykhana, a sister on the chat has a two-part question. She's asking, when is a person considered to be a scholar, and can women be scholars?
When the person can be a scholar, person has got to climb the ladder of knowledge slowly, and then the scholars will call him as a scholar. And the other question is?
She's asking, Sheikh, is it possible for a sister to be a scholar?
Of course, there's lots of sheikhat. In history, there's lots of sheikhat, sheikha. In high quality sister, of course. Now, Bismillah. When she gets very, very old, youth men can seek knowledge, but with a hajj barrier, no problem, because there's no fitna. But with the youth, no. There's no sheikh, a little girl with a student who's a little boy. Now, Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to answer the questions of any person comes to her, asking about the Prophet, and she was young, radiallahu anha. So she was asked behind a barrier. Now, Khalas?
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. I have a question if you have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, like in the adhan, they say, فَقُولُوا مِثْلَ مَا يَقُولُ, say as the muadhin said. And then it says, ثُمَّ صَلُّوا عَلَيَّ, and he said to send salah upon him. Do any of the scholars say that these hadiths make it compulsory to repeat the adhan and send salah on the Prophet ﷺ, or are there any hadiths that say it's not compulsory?
No, we as a principle, ya Akhwani, you don't just look at the hadith. You have to look at the implementation of the hadith. This is a very big, important issue. Companions to talk while the adhan is on. So if it's compulsory, they should not be talking. Okay? So always look at how the implementation. Prophet ﷺ, he said, the hand of Allah is with Jama'ah. And he said, praying with the two is better than praying with the one. You have to wait to, how did the Prophet ﷺ implement that? And the Sahaba, they implemented it on the obligatory prayer, the Jama'ah. They did not implement it, for example, on the Sunnah of the Dhuhr. You come Dhuhr, you find people before Dhuhr. You can't say, brothers, let's just do Jama'ah. What? Jama'ah of Nafila, before the Dhuhr. Why? Because the Prophet of Allah said so and so. And because the Prophet said so. He's got lots of hadith. We say, but hang on. Did the hadith was implemented in this way at the time of the Prophet? That's an answer as well for those people who say, you know, the person, when he meets another person, should start the salam. So now a young girl with a young boy meeting in the street should be competing now. Who is the one who's going to start the salam? Going to get the reward? No, akhi, you're going to get more sin. Because you start with the salam and you're going to end up with something else. So imagine now the young sister, salamu alaikum, alaikum salam. And then she's competing, salamu alaikum. That's not correct. But if she's an old woman, very old woman, yeah, no problem, say salamu alaikum. She says salamu alaikum as well. If it's a man or the group of women, no problem. There's no fitna. When there's a fitna, we're not supposed to say salam. Wa subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan.